Welcome to What the Flick is the name of the program. We could do it again, but we're not going to.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all
Meredith,
the ships at sea.
Alonso, Brett, Ben, to discuss the second episode of American Crime Story, The Assassination of Gianni Versace. And I'm just reading a Vanity Fair piece here about there's some controversy regarding
how to pronounce controversy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's controversy. I can't believe I said it that way twice. It was so hard to do. I'm super impressed with myself right now. He wasn't publicly, he never publicly revealed that he was HIV positive.
I think even whether or not he was HIV positive.
Well,
is
now
still somewhat
apparently Vanity Fair, someone cracked that story. This is a Vanity Fair piece, but the Vanity Fair contributor, Maureen Orth, she reported that he had HIV, and she cited the lead detective.
She wrote that in her dodgy book, upon which this series is based.
Now, but Tom Robb Smith, the writer of American Crime Story, said that they also spoke with sources off the record who claim it was true. So they were confident. Anyway, so I'm going to presume these are reporters who say it's true, but interesting that they then chose to so upfront and directly.
Right, I'm glad we spent 20 minutes of this episode on like clever ways to show you he had HIV.
Yes, without saying.
Well, they give you that taking pills in the opening montage in episode 1, and then you get concerned black doctor looking through the door, and I'm like, I hope we see her again because I have no idea why she cares so much.
Why she cares so much.
So this week she pops up as
So that's concrete detail 1 and why we didn't need this episode. Right, nothing happened in this episode. I will, as we covered parts of the episode, I will underscore why we didn't need this episode.
Well, let me first, because we were talking about that, so here's what the writer said, that he first of all explains that Maureen Orth had no agenda to push of any kind. She was interested in unpacking some of the myths around the murder, such as that one of the significant myths is that Cunanan had AIDS.
Right, and that he was going after the people
which we see with that wound in the first episode. But this is as I was then, as many people I suspected did a bunch of research last week. The thought that he was killing because of it, when in fact the truth is that he did not, and that the person is, as this writer points out, that Cunanan, this destroyer of life, did not, and the person who did have HIV was the one who was celebrating life and living life to the fullest. So they were eager to change that narrative to point out, no, this guy, which they will point out, did not have, did not have it, and yet Versace did.
After 2 episodes, I have to admit, I'm kind of having to remind myself, okay, I didn't like OJ at first. It took me a while to sort of get into the rhythm. The show, no. Yes, OJ, the guy, that's a whole other story.
You get out of here.
Everybody comes around on OJ.
The first student body right.
American Crime Story season 1. It took me a while to sort of get into that story because at first it was almost sort of Saturday Night Live-ish, the impersonations that were happening, but then they start to work. This one, Ryan Murphy, he has to win my trust every time. After 2 or 3 seasons that I tried to get through of American Horror Story and the middle chunk of Glee, it's like, no, I don't automatically think you know what you're doing. And I especially don't automatically think he knows what he's doing when it comes to something that's this gay, because I don't think The Normal Heart was one of his better efforts. But what I do think is interesting is that this is a movie that is set 20 years ago, and the landscape of what it meant to be gay in America was so completely different. We see that in the first episode with the whole discussion about like what's a partner, where the cop doesn't quite understand what the deal is, and we touch on that a little bit this week as well. And so I think that's really, if nothing else, I think younger people are going to become away with this with a different understanding about how quickly things have changed. I mean, Dave and I got married in 1997, and we did it because we thought it was never going to be legal in our lifetime.
Right. I remember an episode of Designing Women where Suzanne Sugarbaker has to, where Dixie Carter has to break it to Delta Burke that this woman that came into their office is a homosexual because they don't call their partner, they call their partners lovers. Like that, I remember that. I was like, what the hell, Mom? And my mom like had to explain it to me.
But you do get this whole thing about like, and with the character that we meet this week, played by the guy from The New Girl.
Schmitty.
Yes, AIDS had been monstrously devastating. And this was the period where the cocktail had just hit, and suddenly lives were changing, and there was a different perspective. Gay men had a different perspective about what their futures might be like, or that they would even have them. And I think for society, gay people stopped being quite so pitiable, which of course made Andrew Cunanan the perfect figure to make us scary again, you know? And I remember, I totally remember this whole period. Y'all were all kind of vague last week about when this was happening and what was going on, but I was like, oh, I fucking remember Andrew Cunanan and the Versace murder and him being on the loose and the manhunt and the whole, you know.
So what did that feel like? Was there, I mean, like so then is there a sense of, is there like, oh, Jesus, like where things had just started, like now again, we've turned this, he's turning us into monsters again?
That somewhat, but there was also, I think, just kind of a more immediate thing of like, did you know him? Did he come through town? You know, like, I knew a guy who says he went to this thing, you know, he was almost like an instant urban legend in a way. You know, he was like the Slender Man of the time because he was this boogeyman, but very, attractive and smart and could kind of blend into these situations. So yeah, there were a lot of feelings about it, and obviously there was a grief over the death of Versace and kind of a horror that it was another gay guy who killed him, and then sort of the expanding scope of what else this guy had done became this like, oh great, it's time to drag us through the mud again in the press, how we're all like predators or whatever.
Weird that, if he'd been Muslim, then the same thing would have happened, right? Or if he'd been from sub-countries, would have been Mexican if he'd been an Arab.
Well, yeah, the half Filipino community did not get dragged over.
But I mean, that's funny, but like, why? Like, what is it like that we're afraid of certain things? I guess, and obviously because sexuality and sex are so important to all of us that touches us in some way, and so we're terrified. But nobody thought, oh man, you can't trust a half Filipino.
Well, it's confirmation bias.
Yeah, Filipino privilege, in my opinion.
But I will say it's kind of fascinating that Darren Criss is himself half Filipino, and so I think had been kind of lobbying Ryan Murphy back since Glee, I think, to give him this role, because this has been in the workings for a while, and he's great.
Wasn't there criticism that they got a guy who wasn't Asian to play Asian, and then it turns, so you're telling me he is half Filipino?
He is half Filipino, yeah.
I'm glad.
Not gay, but
right.
but if you've been on Glee, you're straight with an asterisk.
Right,
totally. But it's I think he's terrific, and I can't decide if I'm loving Penelope Cruz ironically or not, but I'm loving it, whatever it is she's doing.
I think in the end, yes, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
That's my.
I think I'm grateful that we got Penelope Cruz in that role, because without her, it would be nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
She's doing
unless they got Maya Rudolph.
Anyone else would have seemed like Maya Rudolph, because you're actually seeing an impression, because how could you not? But you also are seeing someone doing some real acting at the heart of it. It's not her fault that Donatella Versace is such a ridiculous persona.
She is a unique creation, definitely.
Yes.
And I do like. I'm really interested to see what we see in the relationship between Donatella and Antonio. I think that because Antonio is so not thought of by her as an in-law. He's staff. And so I kind of want to see where that all goes.
And the blame, is there as well, that we saw in this episode of that she blames him for Versace.
Having seroconverted, assuming he did.
Yeah, so it's an interesting portrayal now. So I'm the opposite, where I've loved both these episodes. I think they are absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
I actually got Greg, my boyfriend, to watch it, who I was like, I don't know if you'll be into it, but the cinematography drew him in. And that's something I wanted to mention from last week, and it was even more so prevalent this week, was Miami in the 90s. This is to its core. Some people are probably like, oh, that's a lot of turquoise and pink. And I'm like, no, that literally is my upbringing. I think my bedroom was that turquoise for a period. And I love even Cunanan goes to Miami Subs. That's such a staple.
My wife said, you guys need to go to Miami Subs.
But
that is a really good
not for their subs. Their euros are really where it's at.
She said cheese sticks. It's not called Miami Subs anymore. It's called something else.
May I tell 2 Miami Sub stories?
Please.
Spent 3 years living in South Beach, and my girlfriend at the time, it was Lou Parker, who was an anchor here and had dated the mayor here, Antonio Villaraigosa, for years. And so Lou lived in Texas. She'd come to see me. Anyway, we went down to Key Largo, and we stayed in a hotel that Gus Boulis, who owned Miami Subs, he owned. And he he just pretended I wasn't there, and he started calling Lou, and at first to like put her on. He wanted to put her on ads, billboards, because he also owned gambling boats, right? And I was not threatened by Gus Boulis. It didn't seem like the kind of guy she'd leave me for. It turned out it was a different kind of guy.
I was going to say we did find out.
But it wasn't him. So Lou's awesome, by the way. She's incredibly sweet. So but Gus is hitting on her wildly. And she's telling her this is getting weird, and so forth. So that's the first Gus Boulis story. Then the second Gus Boulis story is that he was in real estate too. He's buying buildings, and he owned Miami subs, and so he was driving one night, I think driving a Mercedes or a BMW, and a car pulls up next to him and fires a bunch of shots into it and hits Gus Boulis late at night. I mean, he was totally mobbed up, it would appear. Again, he owned gambling boats and
imagine.
Right, and he, wounded in the car, managed to steer the car into the parking lot of Miami subs, where he then ran into the sign and died in his car.
Oh my God!
Holy cow!
Yeah,
that's not where I thought.
That took a dark turn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, but getting back to your point about the look of it, I think the art direction is spot on, and certainly the reminder of what outfits in the '90s looked like, whether from Versace or otherwise.
All those tank tops and
those Cosby sweaters.
I've never in my life seen a movie or television show that depicts a fashion show like Sex and the City, where I have come 1% closer to understand what the point of those are, what they accomplish, what makes one good or one bad, like nothing. That is that world.
You should watch Dior and Me. I think
it's still foreign to me. And they're like, because you see then Donatello's like, oh, you were right, and I'm like, what? Why was she right?
The clapping was louder.
Because it was the applause-o-meter. That was not a pretty good thing. But no, what I wanted to say though is, as much as I like the art direction of the show, the cinematography is driving me up the wall.
Oh, how so?
Because they're doing that thing where they're like super saturating the sun to sort of show you the sun beating down on Miami, and I get it, and that's a choice. But they do it so much and to such an extent that it looks like they soaked the whole show in urine. Like it's too much.
It does seem dirty.
It's too.
Miami's dirty.
Yeah,
it's
dirty.
too processed.
Is it Hollywood dirty?
It's too processed after the fact, though. It's like I see this a lot in Hallmark Christmas movies where they shoot them in July, but they sort of filter everything to try and make it look overcast. This is like there's too much sun layover, and it's too much.
How are the shadows so great if it's supposed to be overcast?
And yet, growing up and living in Miami,
that's your memory
90s,
of what it looked like.
I'm like, this really is Miami. Like Greg was like, they didn't have hotels on South Beach that disgusting. I'm like, oh
yes,
no,
they did.
They really did, and yes, they'd be $29 a night, and there'd be roaches, there'd be flying roaches,
and it would be on the ocean.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Maybe that ocean view was like 39, maybe 49.
Right, sure. He probably.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have a really real problem with this episode in that the whole idea of Cunanan finding this elderly traveling or whoever guy on this married man on the street, and then doing the whole gimp on the beach, doing the whole gimp makeup, and then not killing him. Because to me, and that might have happened, but in the overall narration of this, like he's already killed people. This felt like a scene that was a not quite yet serial killer getting close to it, and the next time he's going to go.
Well, but
crazy.
I would first of all, he went to Miami and he didn't kill until he killed Versace.
Yeah, that's true.
So
it's
not like potato chips. You can stop.
Yeah, he wanted to, and also
save himself.
if he'd killed that guy, they would have found him.
Yeah.
I mean, people have seen him go off the beach with him, and then he'd gone into the hotel with him. Obviously, it would not be hard to. I didn't quite get that scene. I'm super claustrophobic, so I literally was doing that during the scene. But what I mean. The guy's hands weren't tied. Why didn't the guy just untie the?
And he knows where they ended. That's the frustrating thing.
It was the we've seen American Psycho scene. I'm going to dance around in my underwear. It's an easy lover.
It doesn't work. And this guy would have been able to find the last place that he felt
some part of it
tap down the tape. It just felt so impractical and false.
I mean, and even in a BDSM context, like and just because he keeps saying don't, struggle with it. I didn't quite buy that stuff. But to your point about this episode being pointless, which I don't disagree, I will say I think the main thing was to give us that whole arc with the guy that he meets on the beach and then becoming friends, and how he's able to ingratiate himself to people and use them for when he needs them and then discard them.
We already have seen that have worked. right?
Some of these shows don't have 10 episodes. Like, and that's part of it. Like they have 5 and they have to do 10. Right?
Yeah.
They're 5-hour shows, not 10
Right,
hours.
but like we already saw him ingratiate himself to Versace quickly. We already saw him having gained the trust of the girl from Masters of Sex.
Annalie
Asher, and he's done it. I get it. I don't need to see it again with the woman at the front desk of the hotel.
I don't know. I don't mind it. I like it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So the hotel scene. My thought there is like, while a lot of it was unnecessary, it shows the power struggle, and it shows that Cunanan gets off on these power struggles, and that I think of him as a serial killer, even though he only killed 5 people. Like there was a motive, and so that man wasn't part of his MO. He came there to, as far as we know, kill Versace. So he's taking this as like, a step towards that. Like, okay, I'm in this situation. I need money. I'm going to fulfill that desire.
I think that we're also getting, and we just get hints of it so far, but Dasha Polanco is the key here because she seems to be the only cop who cares about this, and so that and Maureen Orth's book was about the failed manhunt. Like this was a terrible manhunt. Again,
flyers in the trunk.
He's right there. He's right there. I mean, and again, and especially after, if it's true that the guy at Miami Subs who watched America's Most Wanted was like, he's here. Well, then for the love of God, how could you not find him in the next few days? And I presume what that's going to suggest is, he killed gay guys.
Exactly. Right. I mean, even Kathy Moriarty's like, he's right there. Like he wrote his name on the pawn thing.
He's not
even hiding.
You have to think about like how this episode or this series is structured. They start at the end and they're going backwards while still flashing forward.
Yeah, it's very.
It's a little all over the place. But what it ultimately is doing, and I don't know if it's as effective, is it is showing that this is a failed manhunt, and this is where the police and the FBI totally boned everything because they didn't follow any of the procedures.
I didn't get the scene where she's talking to the FBI agents, and I couldn't. Like, obviously, the point of the scene is to think they're not taking this seriously, but they are there.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get what we were supposed to learn.
Well, I think the idea, they have this set thing in mind of like, well, he's not going to be in South Beach, he's going to be in Lauderdale because his pattern is blah, 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 blah. And, and the idea that like, you're the FBI, search both.
Yeah.
Right. You've got, he's, so I don't know.
America's 10 Most Wanted.
Yeah.
Now, as anybody who's watched What the Flick knows, that there are many things I don't know. But one thing I'm great at, and the only part about being a reporter that I was good at, is I know mostly when people are full of shit, right? That is and it does blow me away in every scene with Cunanan. I think I would be like, after 18 seconds, I'd be like,
yeah.
this guy's lying. Everything about this guy's not true. Right. But I guess
too many details. That's the thing that everyone tells you. When someone's lying, they give you way too much detail.
Yeah, I mean.
But we sasaw that in the first episode with the couple he was living with. And I think like there are the people who want to like Andrew because
he's handsome.
Yeah, he's handsome, and they want to ingratiate themselves with him. And then there are the people who are like, holy shit, this guy needs
I don't buy either of the Versace encounters from that first episode. I wasn't here last week to talk about them, but like the whole thing with, I didn't buy the bar conversation. I especially didn't buy the opera conversation because you know what? After the opening night of the opera that you designed the costumes for, Versace's at the reception at the party with the diva taking pictures for the price. He's not alone on stage with this guy drinking champagne and clinking chandeliers.
Does that never happen? That's in his mind. But then again, like I still haven't figured that out.
Yeah, and if there's a future episode where we find out this was just all his delusion, then great. It's a long game.
Because that would suggest that when Versace saw him, he knew who he was.
Yeah.
Although again, not that you'd remember somebody
in that, especially you'd see the gun first.
Right, and also you're a guy who's literally met 25,000 people.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
All right. Anyway, I'm still into it.
Yeah.
I just I don't know. Maybe it's because the world is such an ugly, awful place and likely to get uglier and awfuler. I don't know. I'm craving that the shows I watch are about fictional people. And that might be what.
So you're not watching Waco then?
No, I'll probably watch Waco. I'll probably watch Waco too. But I'm listening to all these podcasts, all these history podcasts, and I don't know, everything is depressing. I find everything depressing.
My relationship with the creator of this series is different from yours. It's that I did genuinely like the first 2 seasons of American Horror Story, potentially the third, and it's more of an M. Night Shyamalan thing, where it's like, oh God, I hope you're not just this person that for some reason for a reason of you having done two things well, you've convinced me you're good. But you haven't proven it every time. But somehow, I do get excited when there's an announcement that Ryan Murphy has done something new.
Sure.
And I'll watch it, and then it'll take. I did like the OJ thing.
I liked OJ. I liked Feud a lot. You know, I mean, I'm not here to slag Ryan Murphy, but I'm just saying he has to win me back every single time.
He has to not lose me every time.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair.
Anyway, it is interesting. It's interesting, and I'm looking forward to continue. But I like, as always, I like talking about it. That's partly why I like watching it. I like talking about it. And then I wrote a bunch of notes, which I of course left at home.
Good for you.
No, but I wrote them.
Two quick things.
Oh, Laura Branigan. That was one of the notes.
Oh well, yeah.
Come on, anytime you can't, anytime, and we got a lot of it too.
No, I'm liking the song choices, and I'm sure like there's gonna get to an episode where they play, you know, like Bizarre Inc.'s "I'm Gonna Get You," and I'll be like, oh, I love this show. It's the greatest.
I like Ricky Martin and Versace when they had that interaction saying, you know, at night you have no problem not wanting a relationship. It's always in the morning that you want to be together. And then the second thing that drove me nuts was, so you can just take duct tape off your hair that easily?
No.
Yeah, I totally call bullshit on that. That's an owie ow process.
And that's so annoying. And then like, come on, we're gonna go with the on the nose photo collage and haphazard red paint around it.
Was it red paint or blood? I couldn't tell.
Whatever it was just like, oh my God, you might as well just put like
get some yarn.
Yarn and all the
Carrie Mathison the shit out of that.
It was so frustrating.
I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really enjoying this, and I think maybe for the acting and the art direction alone, I love it. But I love the subject matter, and it's nice to kind of see this side of Versace, and he's such a mysterious figure for so many, and I don't know, again, how truthful a lot of this is based on, but I'm enjoying it, and I really liked his whole positive outlook, and even though his collection is something I would never wear.
I was gonna say, but I do love, every time we're back in the house, I love watching the Homo Rococo of everything.
I know.
This is like, wow.
I loved the other Donatella coming to the house. That
was the drag queen.
I can only have. Was that a drag queen? I didn't even get that.
It was, yeah.
I didn't, but I can only have one. I can only.
One is plenty.
One is plenty. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Or good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.